Today's Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. I went with my father. We were headed to the beach this morning to just do a walk. Father and daughter keep moving, keep each other motivated. Um, and then it started raining. So, due to the inclement weather, we diverted route to a covered facility, which was the Roosevelt Field Mall. So, as we're walking, he's chatting away. He got a phone call. We're just walking. I'm walking in silence. And I'm just taking the time to make the time as most efficient as possible. And I'm looking at the models in the advertisements in this Roosevelt Field Mall, which is a Simon's property, as we walk. I'm looking at what has money to shop there because I don't have money at this point to shop there. Like what shows up in the mall. I've done this a couple of times. I guess you can consider the social studies in person at the field. Um, and I'm realizing, like, when I was younger, the models in the mall pretty much modeled the federal system. It was like European American, like beautiful. I mean, beautiful people. Like a level of classy and elegance of something that you wanted to aspire to. Like that kind of stunning beauty. Now, I don't even want to look. It's not like feast your eyes on this. It's like, oh God. It's like one worse than the next. It's like cover your eyes, and it does not make it a pleasant shopping experience whatsoever. Um, Also, the internal mechanics of the mall, like labor pool wise, it looks like it's geared for something completely different. And I don't know why the sudden change in social studies and noticing what's in at like the ground level for employment in that facility, for that territory. So I'm looking at that as like a labor pool. I'm looking at the model agency. I'm looking at the names of the stores. And like as an artist, what is the motif? What is the feel? What is this world stage at like Emporium of what kind of message are they trying to cultivate or send to like the end user, being the retail like consumer? And I don't even feel welcome necessarily at this particular mall any longer, even though it has the Roosevelt Field name. um but I go with my father because I'm just walking. um and it's safe enough, thank God, at this point to walk in. um but I am from afar, and again, like I have this special star, like in celestial, it's a star system. It's a way, it's clocks. I mean, again, it's more of a spiritual conversation, which I don't really want to have, but like out in the whatever. But somebody knows about it somewhere. I just don't know where. So then I come home. I'm watching Cuomo. I found something called a Star Trek. They have all these words. Something called a Dejaris. Something called a monk, and a few other words I'm listening to, and I'm like, but what I have heard before is something referred to as a Deep Space Nine, but I didn't have the personification of it until I taped this one particular episode called The Ascension, which aired somewhere in 1996, but I'm only discovering it now in the year 2023. Um, so I'm listening to the current conversation with this on Cuomo called Raskin. He's closer to this thing called a GOP. I really don't know what that is. Trying to create false equivalency is what the banner reads. So I'm listening to him carefully. Then they have on this person about this neo-Nazi, and I'm like, now neo, that's a Hollywood reference. That would be the Matrix. But then I heard them say something in like an astronaut just so the aquanauts don't get angry, I heard the astronauts refer to it as near Earth orbit. I was watching that Tom Clancy, but like this is a lot of time spent sitting in front of digital library because outside, I don't know where society or community went. It's like they failed me, neglected me, and like they withheld the relationships I needed and then put me into some false dead end, whatever. And now it's like the world and everything's changing around me, and I have no control over any of this. I don't even have a voice to send in. And I have a piece of star systems between now and the future, which is like the symmetry part of clocks, which is a really important part. But they knew about that from my youth and my childhood, which is why I don't understand why they have like chemically attacked this myself and all sorts of things throughout my time spent in New York, and not willingly, just I have no way of getting out or away from New York. So I'm listening to Cuomo, and then I don't, the way that they explain this neo-Nazi thing and some white nationalism. I'm like, now listen, from what I've gathered intelligence wise from the humans, like they wear white uniforms sometimes, black uniforms sometimes, a green uniform's been displayed and a blue uniform's been displayed. Then they come in epidermal like variances of possibilities with like skins on, if I'm thinking about it in a virtual reality kind of a way. So this white nationalism, I'm like, now is that like a water reference? Because like, and I don't know what astronauts wear because they look to see, I mean, like aquanauts, I don't know what section wear white uniforms. I've seen the seamen, they wear white uniforms, but then I don't know astronauts when they're bouncing on the moon and NASA, they seem to be wearing. So that white nationalism, because this gets confusing. They make it seem like just because I'm white, I might be a white nationalist. And again, I'm just confused as to what the definition really means because they have not been very clear. Like, I arrived to like what Brady Bunch looked like. They sang about it. It was on TV. It was like easy to follow along as a kid. And then all of a sudden today, Wayne Brady, not part of Brady Bunch, but Wayne Brady comes out and says he's pansexual. And I'm like, what is, I thought I thought the man-woman relationship's supposed to be calling itself heterosexual. What is this out of left field with pansexual today? Anyhow, this is what Cuomo's up to.
People are desperate for better. Whoever provides them with the most reasonable notion of that is going to wind up being the beneficiary in the next set of elections. Congressman, Dusty and I have been chasing after you to come on this show.
Oh, and I heard him bantering back and forth with someone, which I don't even have the fortitude to even go after this. Like, they both said that somebody is searching for someone to disprove our election system with the Bidens. And I'm like, now how do all of these guys know who these characters are? I mean, like, I'm dealing with mass cast changes and character changes in my digital library and in my real field. Um, but um, they're making it sound like somebody was paying big money for somebody to come out and prove about this election system. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. But I don't even, like, where do they even come up with, like, who puts these feelers out there? Like, I don't even know how to get my national security news of, like, what's going on or how to keep up with the adults that actually are somewhere in the system. So I'm going to go through this and then I'm going to pause it and say, like, what are the fantastics or the fanatics? Like, what's a dejar? Like, again, like, they sent me to the Red Cross. It was like real St. John's, simple, easy life. Meanwhile, they got fan clubs and sports leagues and things, all things they didn't include me in as a star person to bring forth a special star child, and then just kind of like lock me in a series of dead end rooms. It's really troublesome.
Because I believe that you are of value to the audience. You believe in what you say, there's thought behind what you say, and there's proof behind what you say. People can agree or disagree, but you're coming from good faith. And I appreciate
Well, I love that, Chris, and I would love to come back sometime and talk about the question you've been raising about political parties and partisanship and independence, because I have a lot of thoughts about that, and I've written about that. And, political parties have been controversial from the very beginning of the Republic, and they've been polarized and divisive from the very beginning between the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. There's nothing new about our situation now.
And in the classrooms, there has not been a great teacher like this about the history of the democracy or the history of the republic. There's just been real simple to follow and but actually not even really simple to follow, just a couple of faces and drivers home about everything being European American.
And in some sense, it's like parties, you can't live with them, you can't live without them, because they're the oxygen of a democratic system. There's an easy way to get rid of partisanship. You get rid of parties, you move to a one-party state, which is like what Vladimir Putin wants. And I don't think that's what we want for America. We've got to try to make our parties as good as they can be. And I think the real story is, and I know this will be controversial, not everybody agrees with it, but is the change in the Republican Party, which used to be Lincoln's party, a party of freedom and anti-slavery and pro-immigration and anti-know-nothing, that's been turned into a cult of authoritarian personality. And there are a few Republicans like Chris Christie who are willing to talk about what's actually happened over there. That's the difference. Democrats were as big, were as passionate, and were as disorganized as we ever were.
I want you to come back because I believe that you guys have your own problems in your party, and I'm happy to discuss them and why I believe that the independent movement of having people be free agents and voting in open primaries and getting a more moderate ballot of people on both sides through ranked choice votings and other systemic changes are key to the vibrant nature of our democracy. You are invited back 100%. Even though I'm outgunned intellectually, I will have the conversation.
And then he goes on to talk about the electorate college, which again, in elementary school, in middle school, and high school, they never even mentioned what is an electorate college, what does it mean, what does it look like. If you were so inclined, how would you become, again, as a special star person with designated future skill of bringing in future star and symmetrical clocks and star system, an important feature as a biologic. I really would have thought that the electorate college would have done a better job in scooping me up and making sure I was in the correct placement amongst humanity and the gods. But here I am, still not even close to where I should be as far as utilization goes.
And I'm the sponsor of the ranked choice voting bill in Congress. So we need a lot of political reforms to keep democracy growing and moving. And we've got to get rid of the Electoral College, which is antiquated and it's a danger to our people now. I mean, we spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year exporting American democracy. And the one thing the country's never come back with is, oh, that Electoral College thing you got, we think we'll adopt that for our country. Nobody thinks that's any kind of improvement. We should elect the president the way we elect governors, senators, and everybody else.
I don't know how they elect governors, senators, or any of that. Again, not something that they've really explained to me in the series of rooms with 8-foot ceilings that I've been, had exposure to.
I'm with you that it's a problem, but you need a constitutional amendment, and I don't think we can get a constitutional amendment passed on what the name of this country is. And you think I'm kidding? If you don't think your party would go crazy about Amerigo Vespucci and what a bad guy he was, and they're not going to name the country after him. So I got to go, Congressman, but you're welcome back to have the conversation. I promise I'll give you more time than anybody to do it.
Thank you so much, Chris. Great seeing you.
All right. You look well. Keep going. Thanks for being here. Jamie Raskin. You can agree, you can disagree, but he's making his arguments in good faith. 4 minutes, 20 seconds. Coming up on Friday, we had this Iraq war vet named Chris Goldsmith, okay? He is doing something that's fascinating. He has started a group of veterans that infiltrate what he says is the greatest threat to American freedom. And
Now, this is what they're putting up as neo-Nazi. Again, I don't search this stuff out. I haven't found or come upon this stuff. But what I have come upon is this television show that they're now airing on something called Heroes and Icons, Heros and Icons, for which I don't have enough time in the day or enough memory on the TV DVR. I mean, I'm trying to not gain weight. I'm trying to stay as healthy as possible, which my health is deteriorating. I've got these fatty lumps that none of the doctors have given me any like good, sane advice to have them be like to dissipate. So it's affecting my gait, my pace, my biologic, and my capabilities. My metabolic rate is all over the place. And so but yet there's these really important pieces here, and I'm like, I don't know how they're actually using them in a potential like chaos campaign, because I'm looking to see what the Roosevelt Field Market Agency looks like. And I'm like, right there, if they did a snapshot of who invested in this marketing campaign. It is a campaign. So who broke that market to prove a point with model and agency in my local area on the island that I was born to and on, and all of my children arrived on, and who is responsible for all of this? Because it does not look like it doesn't look entertaining. It does not feel comfortable, and it does not look appetizing whatsoever. So, and at the same time, I'm having trouble with, they've withheld anything 6 foot over, and I've been shoved amongst the 6 foot under category repeatedly without ability to get out from underneath this and like protect myself and my children. So I'm going to go from here, I'm going to go over to the only neo-Nazi I could think of, which is Star Trek. It's NEO, Near Earth Orbit. It's the only thing that's even slightly mentioning some other conversation other than Christ and Mary and Jesus. And I'm like, I mean, in a star person's way, I know there's star systems that have been broken. I mean, I can even tell by the light outside the window in photon spectrum. But again, that goes up to like classified science of somewhere in the CERN category, or NASA category. I don't even know the words because I haven't been able to get there. I've been stuck on this island in these situations, and I don't know how to get away from it or out from underneath it. So I'm going to pause this for a second, and I'm going to go over to this Star Trek, which is the closest thing that I can conceptualize for neo-Nazism, and the conversation that they're holding somewhere, or did in 1996. I'm in 2023, and I'm just discovering it. So this is on 488 WWOR HNI, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. It originally aired 2/26/1996. I taped it on Sunday, 8/6/2023. This is new vocabulary for me.
The prophets returned me to my people. I've asked myself the same questions over and over again. Why did they keep me with them for so long? Why did they return me to my people now? I now know the answers. Bajor suffered a great wound while I was with the prophets. The Cardassian occupation. Bajor that I've written.
Now, that sounds like Kardashian, and that's something relevant in my digital media. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not dazzled by it, but I hear it's a multi-billion-dollar, like, profit something or other. I don't know who's behind that either, but I'm watching this with like a skeptic's eye, knowing that I'm still in 8 foot ceilings, and I didn't have, even with my star position, like star system position of special birth, special mother, special child, special bloodline within the monetary currency that's appropriate for federal system, at federalist level. But yet the treatment of my actual person has been less than desirable.
I've returned to has lost its way. People no longer follow the path the prophets have laid out for them. They no longer follow their dejaras. Artists have become soldiers, priests have become merchants, farmers have become politicians. We must heal the wounds of the occupation. We must return to our dejaras. We must reclaim what we were and follow the path the prophets have laid out for us. It is their will that farmers return to their land, painters to their canvases, priests to their temples. If we do this, if we follow our dejaras, then Bejor will flourish again and become the green and peaceful land I remember. It will be as if the occupation never happened. By returning to our dejaras, we will have erased it forever.
Now again, I don't follow Star Trek. Not part of a fan club. I've never even heard their vocabulary. But in possibilities and crossover, I mean, I stay within the Red Cross for whatever. That's where they put me when I was little. That's where I'm assuming was whatever handles safety for this issue. That's where they wanted me, so that's where they put me. That's where I went. It's where I've stayed. But I haven't really come across Star Trek fans or any other fanatic or fan club that's used any of these words. But on the media, like the social media, I've been documenting in like a social studies from afar kind of a way, just all the changes, like in my own airspace, and then in the marketing campaigns in the local population. I mean, it's very confusing. I don't know why what I needed was withheld, whether it be education, whether it be community, whatever it was. It's not really clear. It's not really easily obtainable. But there's a whole lot of this stuff going on, and then like mismanaged. And I even watched one of the Tom Clancy's, Jack Ryan's, where they were talking about flash radar. And I'm like, now is that like X-ray technology? Is that why like the photons are so high? Is because the satellites are just beaming down like way too much? And like, is that what's causing the cancer and radiological like friction and stuff? Like, again, I don't even have the scientific words because of the level like of participation that's been withheld from my ability to access. But on so many fronts. And then I heard yesterday somebody on the news, he was talking about the African American community inside New York City, and he was talking as one of the leaders within the NYPD. He was talking about what like his eyewitness accounts were and like how he was treated by that flash mob that happened, which I'll show in a minute. And he's like, they have intelligence. I'm like, right. So why does that community have intelligence, but intelligence is being withheld from my person? How does that work in actuality? How are they even getting away from withholding intelligence from my person when my national security is like in potential harm's way, just so I can be a better participant and like the function of my person's been removed out of the system, and all the contacts and the whatever's been withheld from my person. I mean, like, it's like the participating part in humanity's been withheld, but yet there's also no ordinance people to speak with or to speak to. So that gets confusing. If we speak at a GOD level, then where are the participants of the GOD for me to have direct access to for lines of sight and protocol if something should come up that's very significant? And then because like the human portion's been taken and withheld, but then also the ordinance is non-existent at this point. So I'm stuck in this really like precarious position that I really don't have words for. So I'm going to pause this for a second. I'm going to bring up where he actually does say that they have intelligence, because I know they're not sharing any intelligence with me. So I don't understand how community and society works at that point. I mean, at that point, it just seems like a complete failure or breakdown. Here was a live event that happened a few days ago.
Police officers. Cops say he bit, spit, and kicked cops in their faces, causing severe bleeding, gashes, and lacerations. Police officials say there's a lot of evidence they're currently pouring through.
We have over one.
Now this happened already in New York City under something called Times Square. It's something called a social media influencer.
Woman amount of video showing people committing crimes out there, destroying property and hurting people. Those people will be arrested and brought to justice. Our young people are very intelligent. They know right from wrong, all right? And I do believe that some came out there with that attitude and the spirit of doing wrong, because our young people, I'm not going to let them off that easy.
Now, Sadat is due back in court on August 18th, but could he serve time or get a slap on the wrist?
So again, they acknowledge this level of intelligence. And I use that word sparingly. I mean, again, if I break down the word, it's intel. But then there's something at the uniformed category for which I don't have access to. And I think that they refer to themselves as the actual intelligence community. So I don't want to confuse one with the other. But when someone is withholding intelligence, which is what's going on in my case, I have to rely on the series of rooms I've been in for intelligence, which I haven't gotten any, or if somebody shows up, which they haven't, and then the lesser of the intelligence is whatever the TV is alerting me to, because the in-person meetings that I've had, like, nobody's really intelligent. I mean, they have some level of, I don't know, they have purpose, maybe. I don't even know how to qualify that. Saying not that I'm around stupid people, because I'm certainly not, but they're not forthcoming into who they are and stated intent of what's going on at any stage of my life whatsoever. That's anytime I was in school, anytime I was in like a upper level, like college setting. Not that college is the electoral college, different kind of college, but again, even some of these words don't even connect in like parallels or paradoxes. And then this comes out today about Wayne Brady calling himself something called a pansexual, and I'm like, now what am I to do with that? I guess I'll just file that under like really weird timing and like maybe a conversation that's going on in a parallel universe far, far away from where I'm in this room that only has 8-foot ceilings. So here, August 8th, they came out with this.
About his personal life, saying he is pansexual. In a People magazine interview, Brady says he's attracted to people regardless of their sex or gender. The 51-year-old says Robin Williams' 2014 suicide set him on his self-reflection journey and inspired him to become, quote, very vocal about his mental health. Brady is currently single and says he's never dated a man. A reality TV show about his blended family premieres on Hulu next year.
Coming up on
Unlike him, I mean, he's been given TV opportunities. He's been given the freedom of having money, having the freedom that money, like if he doesn't want to live on Long Island, he can live somewhere else. I mean, like, I don't even have that freedom. I don't have the freedom of personal choice to find somebody that I'd like to be with. I don't have the freedom of a bank account or a job to show up to. I don't have the freedom of choosing what 6 foot over person I'd like to spend time with and build something with. I don't even have a choice of where to spend my free time during the day. Like, there's the absence of options is where I'm being held at this point. And not because I've done anything for that. It's just, this is what a culmination of really bad circumstances of whatever's been going on in New York over my life frame and in the territory has culminated to now a summation that is like the absence of choices, an absence of options. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.